Perhaps we can have a conversation about our consciousness, the consciousness that now directs us, has been directing us for thousands of years. That consciousness has manifested what we have been experiencing and what we are experiencing now. The consciousness has been bringing us from, or takes us from, war to war, and then war to war, and get ready for war in between wars. Right now, in America, we are at a budget of $750 billion or some ridiculous figure like that to keep 180 outposts around the world and be ready to kill, maim, and murder at any moment, drop bombs on people. I think this, under Trump's term, he's dropped 70,000 bombs. Under Obama, I think it was 28,000. I mean, they sort of keep it a secret. It's a little hard to find out. But if you can't see what this consciousness has manifested, then perhaps this whole conversation isn't for you. I'm suggesting that the consciousness that manifested where we are now cannot possibly solve the problems it caused. We must have, and have to create a new consciousness. The old consciousness, that implies the new one has been created, doesn't it? Has a core in violence. And if you accepted the world that your parents offered you, you might say forced you into before you were ready, then you accepted a consciousness that moves itself to war, no matter what it is that you do. If you're against the war, that's what is needed for the war to happen. If you're for the war, that's what's needed for the war to happen. So, long story short, you are the cause of the violence on planet Earth. We've elected a president in 2016 who told us that he grabs women between the legs and that we must hit back twice as hard as we are hit. And we got to beat the shit out of each other and carry each other out on stretchers. And he throws 3,000 children into cages. And he was elected by 61 million religious people. And most recently in 2020, 71 million religious people voted for him. The only reason I point this out is he's considered the leader of the free world. And if I have to tell you more about it, then you're probably his supporter. So I'm suggesting here that if you care to have a world that is safe for your children, then you must create it yourself. You must create a world that is safe for you, that is safe for me, that is safe for each other. That is a world that is new, never having been before. So in my last conversation, last year, a long time ago, New Year's Eve, I said we would not be talking until next year. And then I think, 4 days have gone by, or yeah, I think 4 days. So I have this question. I suggested then that you consider creating a new you. Of course, mentioning along the way that you would need to create creation. I create creation so that you can create a new you. And if you create a new you, then that new you will have no violence at its core, as the old consciousness has, the one that's been in effect, if you will, since caveman days. So you could say the current situation that we have now is the exiting out, the exit of caveman mentality, and the evolution of the human brain, the human mind, the human being, which would also, that's a whole other conversation, because it also would include the transformation of planet Earth and all that's on it. So if you did, those few of you who heard my New Year's Eve conversation, if you did consider, or if you did create a new you, then perhaps now you're ready to create a new planet, a new way of being, a new human group that has no violence, has no need for guns and bombs and bullets and raping women, and can actually bring forth or manifest peace. Of course, first within yourself, because you have become free, and then peace on earth, because we then have freed earth, if there's such a statement, freeing earth. The probability is, for most of you, if you're listening, you consider me to be rather crazy. I mean, who else would be creating peace on earth if they aren't crazy? You got to be out of your mind, crazy. I mean, well, actually, you have to have gone from normal through crazy through insanity, and then a quantum leap into sanity. But you have to have gone from normal to crazy through insanity in order to reach sanity. And the key is to go from normal through crazy to insanity without getting trapped in any of those domains of activity. Because if you get trapped in any one of them, then you remain in them. If you don't, then you have the possibility for traversing this chasm, this wide space between normal, crazy, and insanity, and that which is sane. On a sane planet, there would be no killings, no murders, no rapes and wars. None of that stuff would be manifesting. Not to say that it, like a miracle, like just all of a sudden it disappears. No. But I'm saying that as it disappears with each individual who steps up, takes 100% responsibility for itself, themself, each of those people create the possibility for a new planet Earth. How many 100% responsible people it takes to reach critical mass is an up in the air question. One awakened or transformed or evolved person equals the energy of perhaps 100,000 religious people or normal people, Americans and people who call themselves Americans, and men, women, they label all these things. After they label themselves these things, then they have to be what the label says they are, or they get in fights with each other that they're a better man, I'm a real man, I'm a real woman, all that stuff going on. So this point called, it's an interesting consideration for me, the point called critical mass. When would we reach the mass, the critical mass, where we move from knowledge, thought, and belief directing planet Earth, directing us, controlling our lives, and creation, intelligence, and truth as the director? The possibility for solving the problems that knowledge, thought, and belief have brought us lives in our possibility for moving to creation, intelligence, and truth. From there, we can solve all of the problems, because then we would stop living our lives from knowledge, from thought, and from belief, and we would live our lives from creation, which is nothing. No already existing violence, no already existing labels, not to say that we wouldn't have knowledge of them, but we would regard it as knowledge, just something that we need to know. For instance, a silly one, when you look out the window, if you see a tree, you might say there's a tree. That's knowledge, that's thought, and that's belief. But if you look at the tree and you say, well, the name of that is a tree, but I wonder what it is because I don't know what it is, that's the unknown. That's intelligence. That's the truth. So, as I said, it's been, I think, 4 days since I proposed this preposterous, or suggested this possibility that you create a new you, and that you create a new you by virtue of creating creation and creating yourself from creation. That's given you don't know what creation is. You can't know because it's in the unknown. However, if you jump up, step up, take responsibility, and do that, then you will have a greater vision, a greater view of what this nuthead, this crazy idiot, dumbest guy who ever walked the planet is talking about. If not, then this conversation isn't even of any use for you. So, on this 4th day of January 2021, when finally the year 2020 turns 21 and can start drinking, what is your way of being? Are you the same as you were December the 31st of 2020? Are you still looking at the same silliness? Are you recognizing that our American government is a complete failure and we need a new manner in which to govern? We need to throw our Constitution and all that stuff out in an organized and creative way and develop a new way of governing, one that will work from the years 2021 forward. Who knows how long forward. And not from the year 2020 and back, all the way back to when Washington and Jefferson owned all those slaves and they were telling us all men are created equal, and they were buying and selling slaves at night. So is it possible then that you have created a new you? And if not, my request is, would you consider the possibility of simply saying that you create creation? That's so you have a place to create from. And then create a new you. And then when you manifest that new you, you'll discover it has no violence in it. Then you'll discover the distinction between a consciousness as our old consciousness from the caveman days until today has only violence at its core. And you are part of that consciousness. So no matter how you manifest your life, it's violent. Even if you play music and you're on the stage and you're the conduct, whatever it is, it's just a comparison to how violent are you or how non-violent are you. Ever notice that the word non-violent has violence still in it? All right, so I've gone past the, what do they call that? Attention span. They tell me, I don't know. So I'll close with, if you haven't considered creating creation, if you haven't considered creating a new you, then here's my suggestion. It needs to be done with you not knowing the outcome. Given if you know the outcome, that's the known. You see, from the unknown, something new can manifest. So which thing will you consider as a possibility? To stay the way we are, to keep the wars going and fighting and rapes and murders and fight, argue with each other, you're wrong, I'm right. In this silly world, we are so stupid that we actually think there's a right and wrong. You see? We think there's a right and wrong because that way the other person can always be wrong. When in reality, we're both wrong. We're both right because there isn't any such thing as right and wrong. All right. For my first video in 2021, it went too long, and I'm too damn crazy anyway, huh? A perfect experience of creating creation. I create creation to each of you.